Yeah, so I guess we'll wait. Oh, hello. We have someone joining us. Oh, we have two people joining us. That's great. I guess we'll wait for a few more before we officially open this breakout room. And we're glad that people are joining. Um, yeah, we actually are waiting as well for the other speaker. There's supposed to be four panelists, so we're just trying to get confirmation if one of our panelists will be able to join. We have a very interesting topic. It's basically kwentuhan. In Filipino, it's kwentuhan. We're going to be talking about storytelling and what storytelling does in our communities, how it helps our communities, how it builds communities, and also getting to know the stories behind our panelists. All right, so we'll wait just for a few more people. Hello, who is this? Do I get to see? Okay, Kay. Kay Go. Hello, welcome to our session. All right, and we also have Dia. I hope I'm saying this right. Dia or Ja? Is this Dia or Ja? Welcome. She's from the US as well. By the way, I'm Sophia. I'll be moderating this panel. I'm from the Philippines. So here in the Philippines, good morning. And I've got people, our panelists are from all over. There's one from Hawaii, from Washington, and from LA. Am I right? Nod your head if I'm right. All right. Okay, I think you can see them over here on the side. All right. And Morris, that's another of our panelists. I'm just waiting for him to join us. I'm not quite sure where he is from. Oh, Chicago. That's right. His brand is based in Chicago. So we hope he'll be able to join us. We're just waiting for him and waiting for others to join as well. We have another one here. Stephen. Hello, Stephen, and welcome to our breakout room. Okay. We'll wait for maybe just another couple of minutes for the room to populate and maybe for Morris to join us. And again, our topic is something we all know about, storytelling. Whether we do it consciously or not, I think we always tell stories by what we do, the people we impact. Those are all stories. So I think everyone can relate. Even chismis is a story. So I want to actually, it's a form of storytelling. It's a form of community storytelling. So I also will tackle that topic. We'll tackle that. We'll talk about that. If you've ever been like on the receiving end of a chismis, I'd like to know. So what's the chismis here? Okay, that's also storytelling. We'll talk about that. And all right. Well, I'll go ahead and welcome everyone. So good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good day for that matter, whichever part of the world you are in. And if wherever you're from, I think I can see where you are from. Yeah, just comment down below where you're watching from. We'd love to know how far or how wide this goes. All right. And again, I've already introduced myself. My name is Sophia. I'll be moderating this panel discussion. And welcome to PhilProCon 2021, the Filipino Young Leaders Virtual Conference. And I just have to say that I think this is like an amazing effort of PhilPro, and it's still a conference in every sense of the word. I mean, you have the lobby where everyone gets to meet and you can choose what breakout rooms you want to go to. So it's just very much like a conference, except that it's virtual. After all, we do have to adapt to the changing times. So it's nice to see everyone in this room, and I'm also thankful to our panelists. We just lost one because of bad connection, so we'll wait for her to return, all right? And particularly, I want to welcome you to this breakout room. And in this breakout room, we'll be talking about reaching beyond words, storytelling as key to community building. So how important is storytelling? And we have our panelists to discuss that. And by the way, when I introduce the panelists, they'll each be given 10 minutes to present what they do or what they are currently doing or what they have done. And yeah, after the presentation, after everyone gets to present, that's when we'll go ahead and dive into the topic. And when we dive into the topic, I'd also like to invite our audience, our virtual audience, to go ahead and join the discussion. There's a chat. There's a chat box here on the side. I can see your comments, your thoughts, and even if you have questions, go ahead. Feel free to post those questions, and we'll discuss it here. And you're also free to discuss with us. All right. So I guess, I don't want to waste too much time waiting. I do hope our fourth panelist gets to join in at some point. But yeah, because I do want to give our panelists the spotlight and the platform as well. And I don't want to, I want to be able to maximize the time. So I guess we'll go ahead and go with our first panelist. All right. So our first panelist is a humanitarian photographer and filmmaker. He has documented the plight of refugees, people in extreme poverty, and internally displaced people in communities affected by disasters. He's traveled to several countries around the world, supporting the work of the Adventist Development and Relief Agency International. Prior to being in the US, though, he was actually a faculty of the University of the Philippines, teaching broadcasting and media studies. He is a passionate storyteller who strives to highlight stories that promote social justice, peace, and equality. Please welcome our first panelist, and also can we have our first panelist in the highlight? Please welcome RJ Aureliano. Hello, RJ. What time is it there?
Hey guys, hey Sophia, hi everybody. Well, tonight is 7:39 p.m.
Well, good evening to you.
So
And I can
I see
also,
this.
by the way, can I be moved to the side now? Let's give RJ the floor.
Oh man,
Thank
this
you.
makes me nervous.
You don't
Going
have
first always makes me nervous. But thank you so much. Before I begin, I just want to give a shout out and thanks to the Philippine consulate here in New York. I am based in Washington D.C., but I'm actually at the consulate now through
to.
the assistance of Consul Arman Talbo, who made sure I get a table and a chair so that I can join you guys. I'm here actually to watch them run the New York Marathon this coming Sunday. So I'll be supporting a couple of my friends there. And so I was like, okay, I have a very important virtual conference to attend. So I need
So
a
thank you
table.
for making time.
I know, but thank you so much for everybody here at the consulate for making sure that I'd be able to participate. So thank you, Sophia, for the introduction. Sophia and I went to the University of the Philippines. We took up the same course and were basically friends. But yeah, career has brought us in different parts of the world, and now I am based in Washington D.C. As she introduced, I am part of the Adventist Development and Relief Agency. I've been with the agency for almost 8 years now, 4 years in the Philippines and 4 years here in the States. And like she said, I am a humanitarian photographer and a filmmaker. My undergraduate was broadcast communication, and I wanted to do something more than being part of the media. So my heart was always looking for opportunities to be involved in organizations that sort of like create positive change for the communities, especially for the least fortunate. And so I was wondering how I could use my media background instead of just being part of the mainstream media. And so I found a career in the humanitarian and development sector. So I started my career in the Philippines, and then 4 years ago, I was lucky enough to join the United States headquarters, and so it's been great so far. Much of my work has to do with documenting the different projects and programs of the Adventist Development and Relief Agency around the world. And this concerns communities that have been affected by extreme poverty, um, refugee crisis, and persecution and violence. So um, my friends would, tease me and they'd be saying that, I've been a world traveler, been going to different countries, but actually I've been going to the non-touristy spots, the non-touristy communities where people are just in dire need of help and it's been an eye-opening experience for me the last few years, and I could say it's really brought a lot of meaning to what being a photographer and filmmaker is about for me, and it has definitely shaped me into becoming somebody who would strive to tell stories to promote social justice and equality. And I would just like to show a series of photos that I've taken, and I hope this works because the last time we tested this part here, it didn't come through. So I hope I'd be able to share my screen to you guys in a bit. So these are just some of the photos that I have taken in the past few years. So let's see if I would be able to show it to you guys.
Oh yeah, it's
Can I
working.
get a nod if you guys are able to see it?
Yes,
Okay,
we can see it.
so you guys seeing it. So these are just some of the photos I've taken from my work. This was shot in Haiti. This is the first time also that I've been in a helicopter, and we went to a community that's been affected by a disaster, and the community was way up the mountains. If you go there by walking, you'd get there in 3 hours, but if you get there by helicopter, you'll get there in like 10 minutes. So
Mm,
different, right? But many of these communities that are found in the mountains do not have easy access to basic needs like clean water and food and health. And the same can be said in the Philippines and other parts of the world where you have these impoverished communities living in isolation from the cities. So we went there to bring help for these communities that have been affected by Hurricane Matthew. um, this is another shot. I love this shot so much. This was taken in Lebanon. This is
mm-hmm,
from a school that our agency has put together so that Syrian refugees can go back, especially the children, they can go back to school. So these are Syrian refugees living in
mm-hmm.
Lebanon. And for the case of the refugees, they are not allowed to integrate into the community. They're not allowed to have access to jobs and education. So sometimes it depends on how lenient or very or generous the host country is to provide education for them. So organizations and nonprofits like ADRA, come in to provide these types of needs. So I enjoy taking these photos. The plight of the refugees is very sad. So when you see them smile and somehow see that side of their humanity, it brings hope to me. This is another family that I've met at a refugee camp in Bangladesh. They're part of the
Mm-hmm.
Rohingya tribe that was persecuted by. I hope I don't get in trouble saying that, but they were. It's all over in the news anyway. They got persecuted by the government of Burma or Myanmar, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and they were pushed away, and they ended crossing rivers and eventually dying from many of those families, if not through the hands of the military, and then they
Mm-hmm.
ended in Bangladesh. So it's really sad and fear, and you see all these children. They
Yeah.
are just as people and humans as we could get. So this is also in the refugee camp. That boy and the child. This was taken in the Philippines when I was working in the Philippines. Also, this was after another typhoon. Um, these are another group of Syrian refugees in Lebanon. Look how happy they are. I wish they could be free, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, kids in the refugee camp. Kids in the refugee camp also in Bangladesh. She's a refugee child from the department for DRC, Congo,
Mm,
Democratic Republic of Congo, but she now resides with her family in Uganda. Many
okay.
of the Congo refugees fled to Uganda, so we went there to see how they're doing, and so they're able to go to school in Uganda somehow. Again, this is back in Lebanon. This is in Zimbabwe, so we're documenting the situation of the kids there and their access to education. Back in Cox's Bazar in Bangladesh,
Mm-hmm.
and this was in the Philippines. Last two and last photo, I guess this is from Kenya, I think. Last photo, this is back in Uganda. So if you notice, I'm drawn to children when I take photos, and of course, I would take photos and videos of other subjects that I need to cover to document the projects. But there's what I'm gonna share to everybody, as I think, is that when you're a storyteller, look for the children, because you'll always find the purity and innocence of those stories. And sometimes they tell so much truth about, their communities, their situation, and their backgrounds. And children help you see the world in a different light, even though sometimes you can be inundated by problems, your own personal trials, or even what's happening around the world. So I just love taking pictures of children. And of course, because I work in the nonprofit, we need to get consent from
Mm-hmm.
the parents and from this community. So these photos have proper consent, I can assure you guys. So yes, I don't know how much time I have to
Do you have more to share?
no, I was just about to wrap up anyway.
Okay.
So um, I wanted to share a video, but I think I could just end it there. I know you guys have an idea already of what I do for a living, but I must say, it's not just a source of income for me. It's not just a living. It's a passion for me to tell stories, and that's the reason also I took up broadcasting back in college. But I found my path, and it wasn't to be part of obviously the mainstream media, but it was to, I guess, use whatever skills that I have, whatever knowledge I've learned in college, and channel that into a different type of good, which is to be a storyteller
Mhm.
for the least fortunate, in the living in the most far-flung places around the world. If I have to be honest, I didn't plan it, but somehow, what they say, if you can imagine it, you can make it
Mm.
happen. And if you just tell yourself that this is, and you be truthful to yourself that this is what you want to do, I think the universe somehow conspire
Inspired, yeah.
and really align you into that. So to end, my short introduction or talk, I would just say, as a storyteller, be true to who you are and know who you are, and be in touch with your heart and your mind, and it will guide you to the stories that you want to pursue and tell.
Thank you, RJ. Those are very powerful images.
Thank you.
I'm glad to see that, there are some happy smiles there as well.
Mhm.
And I do have to agree with you that children tell the most unfiltered stories, the most raw stories. So great job there. And yeah, like just to reiterate what you said, like if you really want it, the universe somehow conspires, because after all, you are your own storyteller. This is
Yes.
your story. You tell it how you want it. You narrate and you direct it how you want it to go. So thank you, RJ, for sharing your work with us. For those who just joined, I see that we still have people joining our room. Welcome to our breakout room here in PhilipProCon 2021. We are talking about reaching beyond words, storytelling as a key to building communities. And we just had our first panelist present, and he showed us his very powerful images. He's a humanitarian photographer. So thank you once again, RJ. All right, I guess we're going to move on now to our second panelist. And our next panelist is a Filipino American actor, writer, and producer who has a Bachelor of Arts degree in Broadcasting and Visual Media with a concentration in TV and film production from Seton Hall University. Now, she currently serves as on the board of directors for the Filipino Workers Center and was former executive director for Phil Am Creative. She was also selected as one of the 10 delegates for the Filipino Young Leaders Program back in 2018 and received an award for emerging leaders at the Outstanding Filipinos Awards in 2019. She's acted in several Filipino American movies, including Lumpia with a Vengeance, Stateside, and Jeepney. She also wrote, produced, and starred in her own short film entitled The Coconut Chick. A member of the Screen Actors Guild, American Federation of Television and Radio Artists, and is represented by SoCal Talent, prestigious models, and image powerhouse. Please welcome our next panelist, Mariden Villanueva. Hello, Mariden.
Hi,
And what time is
Sophia.
it? What time is it in your at your place?
Well, in
Right?
LA, it is currently 4:52 p.m.
Oh,
And
that's nice.
thankfully, I was just mentioning to you guys earlier
Yeah,
that
yeah.
I just made it. I wasn't sure if I was going to make it, but thank the Lord, I made it here on time. I just came from set. We were doing a Netflix film that's starring Reese Witherspoon, so that was really exciting.
Wow.
Yeah, so
of course you can't spill any more details, right? That's
I
all
can't
we're
say
gonna
too
know
much,
for now?
but it is on Netflix. It will be coming out next year. It's actually called Your Place or Mine. So, but this is just one of many projects that I do. You mentioned my background. The first, I did want to say thank you to Phil Pro, to Kit, Luella, and Sophia for having me. So I'm very thankful to be here to share my story, to share my experience. I'm originally from New Jersey. Yes, my background's in broadcasting, but somehow down the line, I shift gears and started pursuing acting. And I wanted to be part of a community that are like-minded people, such as Film Creative. And actually, I do have a video for you guys. I'm more of a visual storyteller. And this one, I have to give credit to Aura via Productions. Disclaimer, this is back when I was still an executive director, but I think this highlights a lot of my experience as a community leader as well as a filmmaker, and just building connections here, because being from New Jersey, I didn't know really anyone here in LA, so I really had to build myself from the ground up. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy. So let me try to share this with you. Let me
go ahead
and share. Let's see, share the screen, and let's do the window, and hopefully you guys can hear it. I will mute myself so that you have a better audio.
Yeah.
And let me know in the chat if you can't hear it. Okay. All right, here we go.
We can't hear Mariden. Well, the video was playing, but we can't hear the audio. Can we try it again?
All right, here we go. Hi, my name is Mariden Villanueva, and I'm the president of Film Creative. Film Creative is a community organization dedicated to the empowerment and advancement of Filipinos and Filipino Americans in media and entertainment. We were able to get recognized because of our support within our members. One of them is a writer for a magazine called Manila Up, and she wrote an article about our organization, and that definitely gave us more exposure and an outlet to reach out to the Philippines. And since then, TV networks out there see if we can create a bridge between Filipino Americans and Filipinos from the Philippines. I've always known I wanted to be in the entertainment industry, but it did take a while for me to take those first steps. It can be overwhelming, but if you are surrounded by like-minded people who are just as passionate as you are, you'll be surprised how many people are willing to help you. You just have to ask. I feel this organization can benefit students. We feel that many of these people don't know where to look or what first steps that they should take. And luckily we provide these resources so that they can have stepping stones to reach their ultimate career goals. So our typical meetings are monthly, and they're held at the Filipinos Worker Center near downtown in historic Filipino town. And pretty much what happens there, it's a potluck. And we mix and mingle and give the updates about Film Creative, what our upcoming events are, what we're currently working on, what projects that we are doing together. We try to promote collaboration, and then we really push our members to really connect with each other so that they can engage in certain projects that we're working on. So other activities and events that we host outside of our monthly meetups are definitely doing screenings of all the hard work that we've done. Luckily, we were blessed to have a total of 4 theatrical screenings this year. Of course, we're also proud of the panels and workshops that we provide to our members. Because of the writers panel last year, that planted the seed for me to write more and create more. And because I was able to write my own script and see other people write their own script and have it produced, that pushed me to be like, whoa, I need to follow my peers. So thankfully, because of that environment, it definitely inspired me to create my own content as well as a writer, as a producer, and as an actor. That's a similar experience what many of these members are going through, and I hope that it does a ripple effect to other filmmakers as well, and hence why we're able to curate over 30 short films, and hopefully we can double that or maybe even submit pilots for TV shows. So I'm really excited for the future, and this is just the beginning.
Nice, Mariden.
Thank you. Oh my
Can I
God.
just make a little comment? Of course, potluck. We
Of
are
course.
Filipinos.
And mind you, this was pre-COVID times, but I will say that it has had a ripple effect in our community out here in LA, and I think people are building bigger bonds, really still collaborating to this day. Even that short film that I was talking about still is getting theatrical screenings. Like we were just in San Diego last month for my short film, The Coconut Chick, and was back there again for another film that I was an actor in called Lumpia with a Vengeance. So the list goes on, but I don't want to take too much time. I feel that at the end of the day, especially with storytelling, this is like the perfect example, I feel, where we're really sharing our passion in filmmaking and acting, editing, whatever the case may be. And with the Filipino community, and with the youth too, I think we just wanted to have more of our stories told, written by us, played by us, because representation really does matter.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why I did have to shift from broadcasting to acting. Like that was more of my focus, because back then, I didn't want to get an acting degree because I was very discouraged. I didn't see any representation for Asian females. So why would I get stuck with a tuition and have no job? But the climate is definitely changing, and I felt that I did have to personally, I had to move out here to LA to kind of find myself and find that community. And I've been here ever since. And not to say that everyone would have to move to LA. It's more finding your community. Really, it's really gonna help you grow. I love what RJ said earlier. Being true to yourself. And I feel like it's also, you put things out in the universe, but you also have to put that energy out too. So it does circle.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like that highlights pretty much all about me. I am a mother of a beautiful 17-month-old daughter.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. And so I'm focusing more of motherhood, but don't worry, in the back burner, I'm still writing.
Motherhood is a story as well.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Mariden, for sharing that with us. And it's great that this community exists, because as one person, you can tell a story and have people watch it or hear it. But as a community, that story gets louder, because you have these screenings, you help each other out. So that's great that you have that. And I like what Mariden said, that, you just really have to find your community or create that community, So thank you, Mariden, for that. Okay, so I'm not so familiar with air meat, so I just saw this in the comment section. Okay, I'm just gonna quickly read through some of the comments. So this was earlier for RJ. I've got Kay Go, who says, so beautiful, thank you, RJ. I'm working with children as well who are battling homelessness in Makati. All right, so I'm virtually working with them as a tutor and literacy instructor. Oh, that's nice to know. Hi, Kay, thank you for being with us here. And who else do we have? Oh, Lydia. Lydia is one of our panelists, and she agrees with you, Mariden. Of course, representation matters. Oh, and she also has a baby. Okay, well, congratulations, girls. Okay, Stephen. Hi, RJ. Love the pics. Come visit us in LA. We live right by USC. All right. So you have an invitation to go ahead and meet and network here, RJ. Okay. Let's move on now to our third panelist. I do hope our fourth panelist gets to join us. But right now, let's move on to our third panelist. Now, our third panelist is a designer, dancer, and musician who left her corporate career to pursue cultural work. Born and raised in the Philippines, she moved to San Francisco and lived there for 10 years, but is now based in Hawaii. She's done several performances, having toured nationally and internationally with Dancing Earth, Cool Arts, Parangal Dance Company, and the Fusion Dance Project. Aside from that, she was once a featured artist at the Smithsonian Folk Life Festival in 2017. She completed fashion design and has a fashion business certification from the Parsons New School. As her work evolves, she frequently immerses with the indigenous communities in both southern and northern Philippines. Her work was recently featured at this year's Spring-Summer New York Fashion Week. Her clothing line, Daily Malong, helps empower indigenous Filipino artisans to continue their living traditions by extending appreciation for the Filipino culture in the diaspora. She believes that bringing indigenous weaving practices to the future perpetuates time-tested traditions, helping the present and protecting the future. Please welcome to our virtual stage, Lydia Kirian. Hello, Lydia.
Hello, thank
I
you
love
so
your
much for
earrings.
having me. Thank you. It's the the Talaandig tribe in Mindanao.
Oh, nice. And is it available on your line?
I have some of them in my online store.
All right.
So
Well,
yeah,
I'll give you the stage now. Go ahead.
thank you. First of all, thank you so much, PhilProCon, for having me, and thank you, Sophia, for the nice introduction. My name is Lydia Kirian. I have a couple videos to show everybody, but just to kind of like give everybody the gist of it, my work is also bridging, the diaspora with the Philippines. Like I would like to tell stories about the indigenous communities all over the Philippines, the ones that are less talked about. When we get to the diaspora, we normally are, familiar with very Manila-centric culture.
Mhm.
And the goal of Daily Malong is to reintroduce the other snippets of culture around the Philippines, because we have over 7,000 islands, and we're trying to see and show and build awareness of the rest of the islands that have their own microcultures, and at the same time, be able to guide and join the Filipino Americans and Filipinos in the diaspora in general in their journey of rediscovering their identity, where their parents are from, what their culture is all about, and all of that. So without further ado, I'm gonna show a short video.
Go ahead.
So feel free to let me know if you don't hear any sound, but I'll put myself on mute.
Hi, I'm Lydia Kirian. Welcome to Daily Malong. A malong is a fabric in a tube form, and it is very functional in a way that it could be a bottom, it could be a top, bags, skirts, dresses. It depends on the purpose of what you're wearing it for. You can basically wear it for anything. The malong is multidimensional in such a way that it does not pick any gender. There are no limitations in wearing them. Weaving used to be a huge part of the daily life of people. This is how they made their own clothes. This is how they created different functional pieces for their daily lives. Now they have to have support from people like us in the diaspora, even for the community to have appreciation of these weaving traditions. What happens when they have access to the diasporic market that values these textiles is that they are empowered to teach it to the younger generation, and it inspires them to go on and continue with their living traditions instead of letting it all die down. And if anything, for the younger generation, they are inspired to stay home and keep the living traditions to their elders, because they see that people like us in the diaspora or in the West are able to appreciate what their elders are doing, and they end up appreciating it themselves. The sad part about a lot of these small stores sometimes is that you don't know where it came from or who weaved it. This is a piece of art that each of the weavers actually sign off on, and it's sad that they're not even known for their own work. The advantage of going to Daily Malong is you know who these weavers are, you know who the weaving leaders are, you know which communities are we reaching out to, and you know where it actually came from. That's what makes the products on Daily Malong unique. My relationship with this kind of work was really sparked about 6 years ago, when I was really able to immerse on a deeper level with the indigenous communities. I really try to build relationships with these people and dialogue with these people and these weavers. The intent of Daily Malong when it was founded was to open up market to the diaspora and be able to help the indigenous weavers or the weaving communities to take advantage of that market, because in the diaspora there's a lot of interest in indigenous cultures. There are people who don't really have a lot of access to Philippine dance, ethnic music, and the most accessible to them is clothing that they can wear on a daily basis. They want to represent themselves, and they want a touch of their heritage or where they came from or where their parents probably came from onto their daily lives as people in the diaspora, as Philams, as immigrants. The person who goes to Daily Malong is someone who is either about to start their journey or currently in their journey of connecting, reconnecting, deepening their relationships with their ancestry. Hopefully, with the access through Daily Malong, they're able to kind of spark something in there that will help them find out who they are or where they came from.
Thank you, Lydia. That was beautiful.
Yeah, I was gonna say that I have some media background too, like RJ and Mariden. So, but I kind of left life, got married, tried to be a mother. I have a 21-month-old right now. So, most of this work is really for her. When you live in the diaspora, or when you were born, if you were born or raised here, right, there's you feel like you're deprived of a lot of cultural things because of the atrocities that your parents go through when they migrate to the US or anywhere in the world. They're mostly on survival mode, so there's kind of like a lack of education in introducing culture to the children. So when we grow up, or when Philams grow up in the diaspora, they're kind of like lost, and again, this is kind of like the root of like, how do you represent yourself, right? Yeah. So I figure that clothing would be the easiest and the most accessible one, and at the same time be able to tell your story, tell your ancestor's story or whatever. But yeah, thank you
Lydia. And I guess just to add on to your thoughts on the diaspora and Filipinos moving abroad, I guess because for others, I'm not saying all, but for others, when they move to a different place, the first goal is to assimilate. So the culture gets pushed to the background because you do want to be accepted in that new place. So I props to you for, you know, bringing your child up and making sure that she knows where she comes from and takes pride in the beautiful culture that we have. So yeah, I have Mariden here saying just follow Daily Manong. So yes, go ahead. What do you have, an
Thank you for
Instagram
coming.
page or where?
Yes. So
Okay.
we're on Instagram, we're on Pinterest. I think we just opened our TikTok, and then we have Facebook. So yeah, we have a YouTube page too, but most of the stuff that we have on YouTube is this documentary that I just showed you guys, and then a few of the editorial BTSs that we have, because we try to do some of those regularly, especially when we were leading up to New York Fashion Week. But yeah.
All right, so go ahead, follow Daily Malong. And just a quick question, because since we are talking about textiles and everything, I mean, there is pride when you see fellow Filipinos wearing it, right? And take pride. But what's your take, like, if, of course, let's say non-Filipinos, foreigners, they also love this and they also wear it. They'd love to wear it as well. Is that cultural appropriation?
Yeah, I was waiting for that question. I honestly get that a lot. So appropriation is a very, heavy word, right? But if you look at the world around you, we're all appropriating things. And even the indigenous communities themselves, they sort of like have a level of appropriating especially when they marry into other tribes. For us in the diaspora, even in Manila, in the Philippines, right? We consume hip hop music. We consume styles and designs from inspired by African American textiles or other Asian cultures, right? So we all kind of there is a fine line between the sort of like a bad appropriation and a good appropriation, when there's a fine line between the level of exploitation, right? So when a non-Filipino wears the clothing that I sell, first of all, I know for a fact that I am able to educate that person on where the garment came from, who was the community that was behind it, and all of that stuff. So that's how I try to be responsible. Now, we cannot blame people for appreciating other cultures, and that's totally fine, because we do that all the time too. But it's just a matter of how sustainable was the process, and then what is the intention. The intention is really important. Obviously, if they have the money and they're buying it, good. We're bringing livelihood to the indigenous communities. And we've done our part in giving as much education as possible, and as long as there's a level of respect somewhere, then I think it's totally fine. But yeah
Thank you for answering that, Lydia. I think so long as there is a level of respect and intent, like for the wearer as well, intent on how they use it, I guess that's also important, because seeing non-Filipinos wear it, it just widens the reach. And if you're able to educate these wearers about the fabric and where it came from, they in turn can also educate others who also admire what they're wearing. So it's just going to widen the reach. All right, thank you, Lydia. Okay, well, we're waiting for Morris. I don't think he'll be able to make it. Let me just check right here. Okay, I guess we're just going to go ahead and dive right into the discussion. Before that, let me see. Okay, Kay just saying good question. All right. Okay, well, if Kay and others who are also watching, if you have great questions as well, or any question for that matter, go ahead and raise your hand or type it down in this comment section, and we'll pose it into the discussion, right? Because this breakout room is about reaching beyond words. So storytelling as a key to community building. So I guess the first question I want to pose the panel, they are all storytellers in their community. So I just want to ask you guys, why do we need to tell stories? What is important about storytelling? So I guess Lydia is here on my screen right now. You want to go ahead and answer, Lydia?
Okay.
Everyone's here on my screen now.
Well, I think telling the story of people is really important, just to give context on anything, right? So I'm going to point out, this is a gadang fabric, and I made it into Um, uh, it's a sweater,
Mhm.
and a sweater with hoodie, and the hoodie is removable, right?
Mhm.
And if somebody like me or Sophia or Meriden or RJ decides to wear it, it's their own journey and narrative of telling their story of like, hey, I really relate to this fabric and this garment. I would like to wear it to represent myself. Not to tell everybody that this is the story of the Gadang community and it is not a traditional Gadang clothing, right?
Yeah,
But
yeah.
it is inspired by it. It's made by that community. The fabric it was woven by it. But I'm inspired to wear it because it represents myself and how I feel right now. And I think that that's where you draw the line on storytelling, is that you want to tell people what is it about your feeling and your current state of mind that you want to share to your community, not
Mhm.
just trying to like misrepresent other people for their own narratives.
Can I add to that, Lydia? I like actually the idea of how that garment, it starts out as a fabric with its unique story from the community. And then as a wearer, you can add on to that story because it's your own story. Like you said, like you wear it and it becomes your own story, and then you perpetuate that story. So that's
Right.
great, Lydia. Okay. Any other thoughts, Meriden? Why is it important to tell stories? After all, you do tell a lot of stories. You make films and act in them. So why is it important to tell stories?
I think we've been longing for a platform
Mm-hmm.
for us to ex, express our creative minds. And I mentioned before, how representation does matter. Like, I love that, Lydia, you're doing this for your daughter. Like, I'm also doing this for my daughter as well, because I want her to grow up where she can watch her TV show and say, like, wow, I can be like them.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of how I felt like, wow, I'm never going to be there. Because I think we have a sense of value, of oneself, and with media being such powerful tool, I hear it time again, like, oh, they'll never cast us and us as like Asian Americans. And if you guys ever watch like Crazy Rich Asians
Mm-hmm.
or Always Be My Maybe, like, they are now like really paving the way for filmmakers such as ourselves. And it's just crazy how it's been 25 years since they had a full Asian American cast. So that's just mind blowing to me. And I feel like we got to do our part to be active in our community. Meaning, like, you support other filmmakers. You go watch their films. You go, share. If they're having a crowdfunding project, like things like that. I think we live in a day where social media plays such a key part in our careers. Unfortunately, I hate to say. I know, like, every day casting directors are looking at my profile all the time. So, like, but we just have to keep pushing through. I think people don't realize that here it's not just the show, but it's also a business too, and that's why it's called show business. So
Mm-hmm.
we do need
Correct.
to be responsible and educate ourselves on the business side of things, and which is important to take those workshops and attend panels like that. Though that way, we can just open our minds. So it does come back to why we need that, because we weren't given those resources or that encouragement from our parents or from our I'm saying from my experience, but from what I'm seeing, like, a lot of our families, not a lot of them are in this field of storytelling, but we really have to become those role models. We're that generations. We would have to be those leaders and also pave the way for our community as well.
Right. I have to agree with Meriden because when you tell stories, you represent whatever it is that you're telling the story about. So it has been discussed in this discussion that representation does matter, and especially if you're given a platform like films, if you're able to make films, and you have to represent, and like we said, role models for people like us, for the Filipino community or the Asian community. Question, Mariden, as a Filipino, do you find it hard to is it harder to pitch stories to big producers or big studios? Does that still happen?
I think they're thirsty for and hungry for more stories with people of color. So I think now
Is it
more than ever is if you've seen it 10 years ago, I've seen it where you would not even see any of the stories. But now, if you're watching it through, if you have Netflix or Hulu or Amazon Prime, even YouTube, there's a need. And I think and the way we consume content these days, there's enough room for everyone. There's enough room to tell more stories. And it doesn't have to be your exact experience, but if it's a story that you resonate with, or you feel passionate, or you just want to entertain, why not? It's part of the art,
Correct.
Yeah, so Earth without art is just so
yes. How about you, RJ? Why do you think there is a human need to tell stories, or what's important about telling stories?
Yeah, especially for us who work in the nonprofit and in the the aid industry, sometimes telling the story is the only way to save lives, or it's the first step towards saving lives. If you don't tell stories of these people who are going through persecution or violence or disasters, or going through extreme poverty, how far can we take our responsibility in terms of helping other people if you don't hear their stories, if you don't see these images that portray or reflect the reality of their lives? We need stories for us to be able to bring help to these communities. That's why sometimes with my work, I kind of consider myself as a first responder, and which is really a very challenging thing, being a type of guy who just wants to stay in the couch and watch movies. But sometimes we would be assigned to a disaster area. The disaster just happened yesterday, and then they would say, this is the estimated number of deaths and all that, and we want you to fly to the Bahamas, we want to fly to Haiti and all that. So, and you get there and you see firsthand the plight of the people. You still see a lot of destruction and all that, and you have to process it and be at the same time objective about your work, so you can bring the right stories and tell the people about it. So, but you realize, it's not just a bread and butter for me. It's a way of actually bringing help and saving lives, just like I said a while ago. And it just brings me back to the time when, the migrant crisis was happening in Europe at the time, but nobody was paying attention until they saw this image of a child being washed ashore. And he was one of the, the I guess refugees from Syria fleeing to Turkey, and he and his mother died, and when the boat capsized, and when everybody saw that image, the government started paying attention. So storytellers are needed so we can create a better world, I guess.
Correct. I mean, it's the stories that you push forward that gets noticed. So if you want something to get noticed, you have to tell a story. All right, we have our go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, especially nowadays when falsehood and fake news and all that are everywhere. So we have to combat it with truth and reality as well.
So I guess, well, as storytellers, I mean, sure, we can tell stories, but to combat the fake news, I think education also matters. To educate people, the youth especially, about critical thinking and how to discern fake from not. So that's also, I guess, for me, like an important part of storytellers, not just to tell stories, but I think we also have to teach like how they how they accept stories, either our stories or other stories, right?
Yeah, stories
Okay.
that educate. Yeah.
Yeah. We have our fourth panelist. Hello, Morris. Can you hear us? Okay, your mic is
Yep,
still
yep, yeah.
there.
I can hear you
Okay.
guys.
All right, Morris,
Sorry
well,
about
let me
that. Technical difficulties. Sorry. My bad.
It's fine.
I
We're
didn't
glad
have
you're
internet for a little bit, But yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Let me know if you're ready to present. I'll give you 10 minutes to present. I'll introduce you, of course, but we'd like our audience to know a little bit more about you. So if you have something to present, let me know. If you want some more time, I can go ahead and ask a few more questions. But right now, if you want, are you ready?
As far as like presenting, I mean, like all I have is the video for. Do you need the video for my business, or is that what
Well,
you?
whatever you would like to share with us. We'd love to get to know you more. So whatever it is that you want to share with us.
Sure.
Okay.
Give me a moment. Let me pull it up for you guys.
All right. Well, let me go
And
ahead and
is
introduce
it going to
you
be a
first.
link? Is it? I'm sorry. What was that?
Let me go ahead and introduce you first. But yes, there is a screen share function. If you can look at the bottom, present to audience. Can you see it?
Yes, I do.
Yes. So yeah, you can click on that. But let me go ahead and let the audience know a little bit more about you, based on the bio that we got from philpro.com, philprocon. All right.
Okay.
So our last but not the least, of course, panelists, I'm so glad that he was able to join us because he is an interesting person here, and you'll get to know why. So he is the co-founder and creative director of Equilibrium USG, or Urban Survival Gear, based in Chicago, Illinois. He was born in Manila, Philippines, and came to the US at the age of 14. Now, out of high school, he enlisted for 8 years in the U.S. Army as a combat engineer, and now he is an honorably discharged veteran. In college, he was classically and technically trained in multiple facets of art, including drawing, painting, and sculpting, as well as 3D and graphic design. With 15 plus years of experience in commercial art in the video game, automotive aftermarket, advertising, and web design industry, combined with the tutelage and extensive experience of his father, who has experience in the bag manufacturing industry, our next panelist created his first modular gear and accessories company, Equilibrium USG, in 2005. He was later granted a utility patent for his modular system in 2014. Everybody, please welcome to our virtual stage, Morris Hamlang. I'm sorry, did I say that right? Is it Hamlang or?
You did it right. That's awesome, actually.
Okay.
Like that, I only hear that in the Philippines. Like over here, is just like it's always Hamlang, right? Right. So,
go
how's it
ahead,
going, guys?
Morris. The stage is yours.
Yeah. How's it going? Welcome. Kamusta lahat dyan sa Pilipinas, pati dito sa US. I'm Morris. I actually, like she said, I own a modular gear company. I've been in the Philippines like back and forth. I'd love the main thing for me was when I first started this business was to try to see what I can do to enable me to go back and forth to the Philippines. As simple as that, but it kind of grew to something else now that it's gotten bigger than just myself. I actually have a factory there in the Philippines, and having the ability to go back and forth and have people in the Philippines as well as here, it's like for me, it's a blessing to be able to come to the U.S. and get trained and enabled to be able to go and just be a part of like something bigger than if I was just in the Philippines. And I noticed something like that as lacking, especially if you're just in the Philippines and you haven't seen like ang tawag nila, like a bigger world, right? Because it's a lot more than your own backyard. And to me, when I had that opportunity, I was able to, I just told myself like, hey, I really wanted to go back and I really wanted to share that. And I really wanted to take great artists, great Filipino folks and kind of bring them forth. Like, so through just not just my business, but also through just connecting with the folks in the Philippines, there are people that can pretty much be on the same level as folks all around the world.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, like, we need to shed a light on something like that, because there's right now there's just so much going on, right? Like that, having something small, like, you know, like what are these islands all far across the Pacific and whatnot, and just for me, I wanted to kind of bring it forth, because for me, like, I came to the U.S. When I was 14, and having something, I guess serendipitously, like, not really fall in my lap, but just a lot of things just came into play, right? Like a lot of things that I wanted to do a business that included going to the Philippines. It kind of came to me. My dad used to make bags, and now we make bags together. So the whole idea is, like, I'm just happy and I'm blessed that you guys are able to kind of get me, like, be a part of this whole panel, because I even asked Laki and one of the guys if I'm qualified to be a part of the panel, and to me, like, it's he says, oh yeah, you definitely just go ahead and present, talk to people, see what they think. But, you know, again, my whole thing is I wanted to shine something that is normally, or would have been, something that is great, but only there. So for me to kind of bring the limelight to something that, like, is in the Philippines, like a couple of things, like, for instance, Quicks, which is a if you're in the Philippines, you know, he's like one of the biggest, like, designers right now, and he's a, you know, like, he's one of the guys that we actually are collaborating with, and I wanted to do the same, and actually do a little bit more, where it actually is bringing more of that talent across the season, like having it over here in the US as well, which is a bigger stage than whatever was in the Philippines. And with the advent of internet, of course, you're able to do that, but having a leg up, wherein, like, you know, enabling you to actually do it on a larger stage with somebody bringing you in, or somebody helping you out, or it's a big plus, especially for folks who are in the Philippines and just basically doing their thing, right? So, but yeah, if you guys have any particular questions, or like anything that you want me to focus on, I could only talk about my experiences building my business and being a Filipino or a Filipino in America versus a Filipino American. So,
well, I guess, Morris, actually, we're talking about, like, you know, storytelling and why it's important in the community. And in the Filipino community, I guess that's our story. There are story, you know, the Filipino story is that of Filipinos going to America, creating a name for themselves, either through their own business, like what you have done, you know. And I guess that's also one question I'd like to pose to you and to the rest of the panelists as we discuss about storytelling. So I guess, you know, the Filipino story was a story of a diaspora. The Filipino story was a story of trying to assimilate. And then it became, the Filipino story was a story of trying to find a community of fellow Filipinos and taking pride in that. So moving forward, what should the Filipino story be now?
Making something of it outside of what was classified or classically been why the Filipinos came to the U.S., right? If we're just talking about Filipino and American relations, like initially, before the Mexicans were like the manual labor over here, America brought Filipinos like over. That's why, like, you had the nurses, the manongs, and all that stuff. And because of that, like, you know, that's a big, you know, that's a big sore spot still. But us as the new generation coming in, we need to go build up on something like that instead of being just like, like the laborers or whatnot, and the cheap labors that we were like, or the Filipinos were before. Now you have talent. Now you have people that are actually like leading in their respective fields, and we want to have it to where, and it's not just like I said in my whole thing is like, I wanted to show off that there's more than boxer singers and nurses coming out of the Philippines. There's actually good talent. I mean, it just needs a spotlight, like, and that's why I feel the storytelling now should be of building on what was used as a base. And going further from it, like going more than what it is right now, and that's the way I see it.
How about you, RJ? What's your take? How should the Filipino story continue?
Yeah, so of course I agree with Morris. I think as much as we want to tell our our history as immigrants and people trying to find a better life by moving away from our country to our host countries, I think it's about time we tell the story of Filipinos as builders, innovators, creatives, and we just have to grow out of that narrative that we are just we're immigrants. I get it, it's important to tell that backstory, but I think how we move on should be about us really being these community or population of very important contributors to whatever societies or countries or host countries that we belong in. In my particular sector, I must say there aren't that many Filipinos in the States who are in the nonprofit, who are storytellers. Many of them are in the programmatic side, but I hardly encounter another Filipino who's also just like me. And so what I try to be is that I want to show them that, again, I am not just another Filipino worker whom they sponsored a visa for to work in the States, because that's my backstory. But when I came to the States, I've been trying to go over that. My reality is that every time I get to talk to a group of Americans, and they figure out that I'm different, and probably they sense that I have an accent, they always ask where you come from and all that. So I guess maybe for a lot of Filipinos, they experience that every day in their lives, even though they speak perfect American accent, they always ask, where did you come from, right? So for me, it was like that. And even I tried my best not to sound like a fresh off the boat kind of like Filipino. That's an insider joke for us. We can say that obviously to ourselves. But at one point somebody told me, "Oh, but you don't have the accent," and I was new then, and I didn't realize what was the comment about. So for me, that's where my opinion was hinged on. I really wanted for us storytellers to keep telling stories of Filipinos who are innovators, creatives, leaders, and not just people who migrated just to have a better life, from the Philippines. And I definitely agree with Maurice when, I was just snowballing from him. And on that point, I really am so proud that I am in the same panel with Lydia and Mariden. I mean, the amount of talent that's in the room right now, including you, Sophia, and are part of our attendees. I see them, their backgrounds and all that. Like, we can really be proud of who we are as people, and we have to move on from just being immigrants.
Would you like to add on to that, Lydia or Meriden? Like, for you guys, how should the Filipino story continue in your in your community?
So I just want to add to what RJ and Morris was saying, right? So, there are people who are really into like telling the kawawa story of the Filipinos.
Yeah.
And,
Exactly.
it's kind of like, it's okay. We need that kind of storytelling in the world. So to kind of like balance it out, right? But also we want to tell a story of resilience. An example is that, the way that I would tell the stories of the indigenous communities is that they're not the poor little province people that people think they are, because that's always the perception. They're from the tribe of Talaandig, or they're from Tawi-Tawi or Basilan, and they're like, they're always like the lowest class ever. And and we need to start feeling tired of telling that story of Kawawa, because they're resilient. They have cell phones, they have Facebook pages. You know what I mean? They practice their indigenous culture and their indigenous traditions, but at the same time, they're evolving. Their culture evolves. So I think it's time for people like us, the diaspora in Manila, everybody, to kind of like start telling stories of strength and resilience and how powerful we are as individuals, and not just that helps us kind of like feel better about ourselves and value ourselves more, because we've always been feeling inferior about ourselves for the longest time. So this is the opportunity for us to kind of like feel better and feel good and kind of like heal all those like inferior wounds that
Yeah.
generational traumas have cost us. So yeah.
And speaking of that Kawawa story, enough of that, right? I have to ask Mariden this, because in the film industry, there are so many films that focus on the poverty porn of Manila. So for you, what's your take on that? How should we show ourselves, or what stories should the Filipino continue?
I actually want to say something different from what you guys are saying, because I feel like we're already doing that. I do encourage you guys to really check out film festivals. I mean, you'll be surprised that a lot of these stories aren't your Kawawa stories. And I just wanted to say, RJ, you should see my short film. So actually, as a treat for you all,
I definitely will.
It's not your Kawawas. Actually, if you don't mind, can I share a quick 30-second trailer?
Go ahead. Okay.
Just to show you that there's no like Kawawas. But the fact that you mentioned like the whole like, oh, every day they ask you where you're from, and I'm born and raised here, and I get that question.
Good morning,
every
beautiful.
day. Oh my god, hold on one second. It's like started playing like. So let me just share this to you. It's a comedy. But I will share you the link for you guys to enjoy later. So let me just share this really quick. Oh my god. Here we go. All right, so share.
Can we give Mariden the highlight?
Oh, yes, please. Let me know when you're ready.
There. All right, go ahead.
Okay. And I will have to say, this is my first project where I was very involved. Oh, I was very determined to get people from a film creative to really showcase their skills, and it was pretty much a collaborative work. And just an update from my intro earlier, it wasn't just 30 short films. We like curated over 150. So, and that's been growing. So I don't even know what the accurate number is anymore, but this is just like from the beginning. But here we go. Let me just share this with you really quick. Let me know. Is it popping up? I feel like it's
not
loading. Okay. Share screen? No? Yes? No?
Yes. Share screen.
Oh, share screen.
Oh, what happened? Oh no, we lost. Did we lose Mariden? Okay, there. All right. We got you back, Mariden. Either that, or she may have a cat or dog that stepped on the wires or something. Okay, so, all right, Mariden, let us know when you're back. In the meantime, I think it's yes, we lost connection with Mariden. Okay, while we wait for her though, while we wait for her, let's lighten things up. I want to talk about this because it is a form of storytelling, and I'm pretty sure either you've engaged in it or you were the receiver of it. Let's talk about chismis. I mean, it's a form of storytelling in the barangay, or so let's talk about chismis. I want to know, and also the audience. Okay, so what do you think about chismis? Is it detrimental, or is it a form of entertainment? Is it what is it for you? Let's go ahead. Who wants to answer? RJ, you were like smiling.
No, I mean, what is a Filipino life, right, without chismis? Every day, it's like, just imagine in the office or in the school. It's part of, I guess, our being. It's part of our story, our way of telling stories. It's part of storytelling. When it becomes detrimental, obviously, is when it becomes, the center of storytelling, when it's the only way to tell stories for these
Mhm.
communities. I wouldn't condemn, I guess, people who do chismis a lot, but I guess we should be at that point where we should always strive for truth telling instead of just spreading lies and chismes about our kapwa, or somebody, or about an issue. But I wouldn't yeah, I mean, it gives spice. It gives spice to our culture. But definitely, I think among us Filipinos, we are wise enough to distinguish, when chismis is enough, and we need to start, talking about the real thing. But
Because we have those titas, right? Who goes, "Oh, do you know that this Apo has a boyfriend?" Or,
it makes good characters for a movie. I'm sure Meriden would agree. This chismosang
chismis.
tito or tita or kapitbahay. But it's,
How
yeah.
about you, Morris? What's your take on chismis? Is it
Uh,
is it detrimental? Is it fun in the community?
Only if you let it. That's the
Mm-hmm.
way I see it. Like, well, I just recently, right, because of the pandemic, just my little side story on this was really quick. Uh, we had like a GoFundMe, and like, just trying to get the business running, and making sure that nothing's wrong with it and everything. And then we noticed that some family members or some people didn't respond, right? Like, and these people are people that we broke bread with, mga kapamilya, kapuso, like, but but these people, uh, you know, we finally found out with the chismis that
Mm-hmm.
they were saying like, oh, why are they having a GoFundMe? Dahil
Mm-hmm.
kasi, like, why don't you go get a job, right? I mean, I was like, I was floored because I was like, I'm an entrepreneur. I understand where you're coming from as far as trying to do the 9 to 5, but it's not just me and my family that I'm fending for. I'm fending for my family as well as my factory workers, as well as the people in the Philippines that work for me. They all count on our business to keep on going. And when people, I heard that, and I heard that from people that I broke bread with, I was like, wow, right? Like, and then to even elevate it even further, like more chismis, is the fact that once I did hear it, and we said something about it, parang on the side, like it was just like just kind of mentioning it, like, oh, kind of heard this, you said this, but you know, parang natamaan, or like they got hit by it, and they said to this note, like, I don't know if it's verbatim, but they said like, I'm not here to provide or to give you money for your workers in the Philippines. And I was like, wow, like, and to me that was again, those are pretty hurtful stuff, and the way that I see it is like, you know what, I just have to rise above it. Like, I need to use it as fuel. I need to use it as fuel. I know I have to go through that motion of feeling hurt by it, but at the same time, now after getting that feeling, I gotta step above it and rise above it. And it's again, the chisme is like you said, it could be form of entertainment, it could be fun, but there are some times that it actually gets to be a little too far.
Yeah.
And when that happens, you just have to be the bigger person, and just like, you understand that, you know to go past it, like, because people want the, like, they have that crab mentality, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
people don't want you to succeed, or like, they, if they see you like maybe enjoying too much, or
They're
whatever
envious.
it is, they would actually go ahead and like, oh, well, kita mo naman yan si Morris, blah blah blah, like, and I'm like, all right, guys, like, it's I wish it was different, but
Mm-hmm.
that is not, I don't think it's just in the Filipino community. I think it's in all communities, but
Right.
it is something that is hurtful. And like just what RJ said, like, you know what, if it's the only story that's there, that's when it becomes very bad. But
Yeah.
But that's why you just look forward, keep on going, and establish the real story yourself by keeping on and pushing on what you're doing, and pay it no mind, because it doesn't have that, like, it's a shock factor, right? But other than that, the truth will come out afterwards.
Right.
The way I see
So,
it.
yeah, well, at least because of the chismes, I mean, it may have been hurtful, but you found out, right?
Right, and it wasn't it was like with any kind of chismis, right? It's not meant to be heard by the person that you're making chismis of, right? So
Yeah.
so
But,
that's
we always get wind of what gets said
right.
about
Well,
it. Speaking
I
of
mean,
that,
go ahead.
yeah, speaking of that, I'd like to know if any of Mariden or Lydia, have you been on the receiving end of a chismis, just like Morris?
I think chismis is like Twitter now, right? People chismis like in person, and then there are the hence the cancel culture that we have right
Yeah.
now. And so going back to your first question earlier, I've been hit with a lot of like digital chismis of cancellations with in related to appropriation, and it's good and it's bad, because to me, if you're being criticized as something, you're doing something good.
Okay.
Right. And how do you move forward with that is that you just answer to the people that you work with, the weavers, the community leaders, and your customers and your clients, period. Everything else is noise. And if they want to create a propaganda, then if they want to bring it to the online world, then we battle in the online world. Then I normally just answer them in a one sentence statement saying that I don't answer to you, I answer to my weavers, I answer to my community. If you decolonize the term chismis, though, it's a way of people getting news in the indigenous communities back in the day. They didn't have cell phones, they didn't have televisions, they didn't have radio. So that's how word gets out, is chismis. And then, things have evolved, technology added, and all of that stuff. That's when it got a little bad, because it became a form of like trashing people, canceling people, and all of that stuff. So like RJ, like RJ and Morris, it really depends on it. It could be purposeful, it could be useful, but it can also be detrimental to someone's mental health. But for people who are in the receiving end of it, it's really like just moving forward, walking straight, and unless it really hurts some people that you work with, then that's when it's kind of like finding the balance.
Right. That's when you cross the line. If it hurts other people, the chismis, not only you but other people. How about you, Mariden? Have you been on the receiving end of like a bad chismis?
If they did, I either did not hear about it or just zone it out.
Love it.
Honestly, they could chismis as much as they want, and I wouldn't care. I feel like if you're confident in yourself and you are passionate in what you do, I feel like there is a fine line. If they're just chismis, it's chismis, but if it's like a threatening, that's a different conversation. But I think, I agree with Lydia said too. It's like if they're talking about you, they're talking about you. But you're not there to impress them, though.
Right.
You're pretty much. I feel that you're not not giving anyone a reason to talk to you bad, but if that's going to be their own opinion, then you just start realizing which people you want to keep around and which people you want to stay away from. Again, it's about that energy. That I'm a strong believer in energy. Whatever energy you put out there will circle to you. Luckily, I haven't had any crazy like stories to tell. So in that sense, if there was, I'm a big believer also in killing people with kindness. It's not my character to judge people badly, at least like in public. If it's something that like, if there's something that I feel like could help them, you know, I would be the type of person to cheer them on, believe it or not. Like I know that people always say like, oh, they're doing something, but I thought of it too. And I'm just like, telling them, I hear it a lot actually from other people, but I have to like redirect them to be like, you know what, that person's going to be sticking around. You know, eventually there might be a panel of you guys all together, so you might as well support them.
Yeah.
Something like that. Just I'm being vague, but you know, it's about being stronger in numbers though. Like if I were to say that, oh, I'm going to be the only filmmaker, like
Mhm.
no one else can be it. Like, no, that doesn't make sense to me. It's more of like we need those numbers. We need we need to flood the gates with more of
Right.
our stories, more of our our yeah, just I don't know, just more of collaborations and
Yeah.
just people need to bite their ego and you know.
It's not a competition.
It's not a competition. Yes, I agree. It's not a competition. It's more of you're adding to our pot.
You're adding to the story.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, I like what Kay says. Kay says you are immune to the chismis. Ignorance is bliss. Okay, well, I see that we're kind of running out of time. I mean, this is such an interesting topic. We all have great stories to tell. You've also told great stories. Morris here is a self-made man. He has his own bag line. I'm sorry, we're running out of time. Mariden tells stories through filmmaking, and Lydia through her fabrics. RJ through his photos, his amazing photos. So I guess this is going to be the last question for everyone, since like everyone on the panel are storytellers, but everyone else is actually a storyteller. It's how what you put, like Meriden said, what you put out into the universe, it's also your story. So, you know, talking about stories, how would you guys like your story to be remembered? Like, you know, in short, because stories are what gets passed on from generation to generation, right? So how would you like to be remembered in your community? What gets passed on about you? So who wants to go? RJ, yes, you're in the spotlight. Thank you, Shane, for spotlighting RJ right away.
So this is how beauty contestants feel, like, you know, just being put on spotlight with these questions not ready for. But you know, that's an interesting question. I haven't really thought of, you know, how my legacy would look like in the coming years. But I guess I just want to be one of those people who strive to be part of a community that you know, that helps each other, that advocate for social justice, equality, and for the rights of the poorest of the poor. That's where my heart is. And so if, you know, there's ever going to be a legacy that I want to be remembered for, I really want to delve into more work into social, in promoting social justice, you know, peace and development and all that. I want to use my craft to be able to tell the stories of the disenfranchised. Hopefully I'd be able to put up my own nonprofit, if not my own production studio that, you know, tells stories of people who need help around the world, especially Filipinos.
All right.
First runner-up.
First runner-up. Thank you, RJ. Lydia, you're
Thank
next
you,
on my
guys.
screen, so I guess I'll go with you. How would you like your story, or what story would you like about you to be passed on?
Just like RJ, I haven't really thought of that. I only went as far as like what
Sorry, guys, I made this question on the spot. I put you guys on the spot.
I only went as far as what I would like my daughter to see, you know, and I guess that's the most important story to be told for me, is how she would tell that story about me or the work that I've done. And you know, I'd like to think that the work that I'm doing right now is setting stage for normalizing indigenous fabric around. You know, it's not about like when you see indigenous fabrics like this one behind me, it's not gonna be seen as an exotic clothing anymore. It's normal, you know, it's normal and worn by almost everybody around her. So I think that's kind of like the legacy that I want to leave, is that, you know, normalizing things that people think are too exotic.
Yeah. So those are not only to be
I'm not
worn
gonna win
during
this
Linggo ng
pageant.
Wika. All right, normalize our fabrics, our traditional fabrics. Nice. All right, thank you, Lydia. How about you, Morris? So what story would you like about you to be passed on, or how would you like to be remembered?
Just like what Lydia said, I do want to leave a legacy, especially to those people that really matter, which is my family, my kids. I want them to I want to show them something for them to be able to do what they love to do in the future, whatever it is that I can give them. Right now, we want to be these trailblazers, these leaders and stuff. I'm suffering from a little bit of imposter syndrome because I've gotten to a certain level and I'm like, am I really supposed to be here? Like, that kind of like thought process. And like, people reassure me, like they're like, you're doing more than what a lot of people think is possible for an immigrant, especially like when they tell you when you move over to this country, like, oh, what are your choices, right? So, but long story short, I really just want to leave a legacy. Like, it's something that would supersede me. May it be the business is left with my kids or whatnot. I just want to have something where other folks can use it either as a template or a springboard to be able to further their dreams, their passions, their their wants. If they see somebody of our color being able to get further in life, they would ask that question in themselves, like, oh, if that person can do it, ako din, diba? So that's the way I see it. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's nice. You want to be remembered like as an inspiration. Like
Yes.
your story, people can build onto that and make their own story. So that's nice. Thank you, Morris. And last but not the least, Meriden, how would you like your story to be passed on? What gets remembered about you?
Well, everyone's been using the word legacy, and that's such a big word. I think that's something that has to be earned. And I feel that my legacy would be, and praying to the universe, that first full Filipino American who won the Emmy, Oscar, Golden Globe.
Do it.
And you know what? And hear me out, because you guys were just saying it. We got to be that inspiration for others, and I really hope that someone who follows their dreams and really tries to achieve it, that's part of the legacy too. It's not just an overnight thing, it's the journey. People kind of forget that. They're just recognizing, oh, this person got this award, but when you dig deeper, they have a journey, they have a story. And I think that legacy speaks for itself when you know the story behind it. And you were just saying, Morris, like, if I see someone who can do that, oh, maybe I can do that too. And I hope that my daughter will feel that way too. I do want to shout out to my husband, Steve Angeles, who also got his Emmy from his documentary. You definitely have to check that out.
Congratulations. Yes, send us the link.
So if you ever get a chance, hopefully you can find a way to watch Kept.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, a documentary. Mama Fedalina. So she was human trafficked for over 60 years, but he's definitely inspiration. So, it's just a ripple effect again. I know I say that several times, but it's very true. And I feel that if you can inspire others, I hope that's my legacy ultimately. So, yeah.
Thank you, Meriden. So the energy you put out is also the energy you attract as well, anyways, right? Okay. Well, I want to thank everyone on this panel. Thank you for this wonderful discussion about storytelling. And I guess just a recap or maybe final words. Storytelling is important in pushing forward and pushing forward some ideas into a community and make sure that it gets passed on from generation to generation. So having said that, it's the stories that we put out that matter. So be careful, because the stories that we omit as well get forgotten. So, be careful of what stories you tell. Make sure they are the stories that you want to be remembered for. And I think everyone else in this panel had some great stories and insights about storytelling. So thank you once again to RJ, to Lydia, to Morris, and to Mariden. I wish we had more time, because I have a lot more questions here that I'd love to be able to discuss. But yeah, I guess we'll wait for the next PhilProCon. I hope everyone is still available then. I also want to thank the people who joined us in this breakout room. Kay says here, wonderful presentation. Thank you to all the panelists. I gained so much tonight. Oh, thank you. And she's inspired by everyone's stories. All right. And who else? Okay. So Mariden, yes, let's connect on social media. All right. Stephen. Okay. So this was from earlier. Sadly, it's the Kawawa stories that get the awards. Well, storytelling is really up to us. So it's the stories that we tell. Okay. The Chismis is Meriden's legacy project is called Evie. Ooh. Interesting. Well, anyways,
that's my daughter's name.
Oh, okay. I thought it was a movie that you're working on. Right?
Oh yeah, actually, that's a great idea.
Okay, well, thank you, Stephen, as well for joining. Who else do we have? So I just want to do a quick shout out of people who are here. Cherry, Anthony, Stephen, I mentioned, Isabella, and Kate. So thank you all for joining. Again, my name is Sophia. It was a pleasure talking with this bunch of creative individuals. And I also want to thank PhilProCon for providing us this platform to have our kwentuhan. All right. So once again, thank you and goodbye, everybody. For the panelists, if you can stay on, I wonder if we can have a chit chat backstage. But to everybody else, thank you. Enjoy the rest of the day. And I think there's still other things happening in PhilProCon in the main lobby. So you guys can go ahead and check that out. All right. Bye.